Can everyone see my screen, please?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, I'll put it in presentation mode. Okay. Good evening, everyone. So today we are going to do setting up our automation framework from scratch. So, but before you start, you can see from my slide, it says that you need to download and install Visual Studio. So you might need to go on Google and put download Visual Studio. And when you put it on Google, because it's a Microsoft device, you will need to navigate to where you can see all the different types of the version you need. There is a community version, there's professional, there's enterprise. So what you need for this training is just the community version, which is enough for the automation to start. So this is the step we are going to take in setting up our framework from scratch. And this is the step you actually need. Should in case you have interview, you can always use this particular step to tell any panel, this is how you set up your framework from scratch. It's not different from what everyone does in their various work, as long as you know the step, and I think it's fine. Because when you join a company today, what you need to do, you still need to install Visual Studio, whether they give you their portal to go and download it, or they tell you to go to Google and download it. Depending on how it's being done, you need to speak to someone, or your test lead will tell you how it will be done. Okay. So I'll just say all the steps. So the step one, what we need to do is just to download and install Visual Studio. So after we download the Visual Studio, we need to do step two. Is very, very important, because if we did not do the step two, we might be having issues with our Visual Studio, and you will be getting lots of errors, or you're trying to see your test explorer building up your test, but you wouldn't see any test there. So we need to do the step two. Is very, very important. Then after we've done the step two, we might need to create our first test project, which we are going to do today, if time permits. If we don't have time, then we will do this session again, depending on what Deji says, and we can carry on from there. So the fourth one is the add nugget packages. We are going to be adding nugget packages, and also we are going to be creating folder structure. This is very, very important in our framework. And also we are going to create a feature file. The step 7 is just to generate your step definition. Step 8 is to create page object. We have step 9 on the web page to find our element. The 10 is to add element to page object. We have 11, create test method in page object, which we are going to do. We have step 12 to call test method in step definition. Then we need to run our test and repeat step 6 to 14 again. So this is it. When you put Visual Studio in your browser, you can see on this, as I'm sharing screen, you can see you put visualstudio.microsoft.com, and you will see it might be different now because this particular screenshot is a long time screenshot, and it's also the slide that Deji uses. So I kind of borrowed it. So you might have put this Visual Studio and you see different screen. Don't worry. Just try to navigate around and make sure that you see the part that talks about different types of download that you're going to do. Whether you have your Windows, you must be able to see the community version, the professional version, enterprise. Also, you can see we also have the one for Visual Studio for Mac, or we also have the Visual Studio Code. So when you go on Google, you just need to select the community version, and you make sure that you have a Windows device. So it's advisable that you have a Windows device, and so that you can have this setup very well done. But if you're using Mac, you might need to take the second option, which is the download Visual Studio for Mac. That is the second option. You need to pick that. But for the sake of too many issues, because of the experience that we have from people, it will be good if you download Windows on Mac. So if you download Windows on Mac, then you can do the first one. But make sure you select Community 2022. So this is the next thing you will see on the screen. You will see this screen to say, thank you for downloading Visual Studio on the screen. You will see this installer, meaning that the process is being done. And if you see this installer, it means that you're doing something right, and you just need to click on continue. So you will see you can see from this screenshot, it means that this Visual Studio is being downloaded, and you can see everything on the screen. So you need this workload, because for every Visual Studio you install, if you uninstall your Visual Studio, let's say you installed it and you mistakenly uninstalled it due to one or two reasons, you need to do this particular workload and make sure you set things right. So what you need, and what I will advise everybody, is to select .NET desktop development. So for our automation, I would say that we should select this one. And you can see it has to do with the build WPF. It has Windows Forms and console application. You can use console application for various things. At my work, we use console application to update CSV files, because in my company, we upload lots of CSVs for the government. And yeah, so we need to, sometimes they come and make changes. And when they make changes, we just need to upload it. So we use console app. So there are various reasons why you can use that console app application. And also, this is specifically for C# programming language, and it's not for Java. And you can see it also matches the F# with .NET and .NET framework. So after you've checked that particular one, the one on the right that says installation details, please leave it as default. Don't try to check anything there except you know what you are doing. And at the bottom, you will see that we have that arrow pointing towards install. So when you're installing it, try to select install while downloading. So when you select install while downloading, just click on install, and it will start downloading for you. And we are going to do this after I've said something about it, so that everyone follows this session. So once I can get everybody to follow, then I will start the practical aspects. So meaning that I'm not too ahead of the class, so that also we can always catch up together. So you will see the screen when you click on install. This is always our Visual Studio installer, meaning that if there is an updated changes to our version of Visual Studio, we can come to Visual Studio installer and update the version of our Visual Studio. Because for everything, every tool you use, you will always have a version. So if you're being asked at interview what version of Visual Studio, just say Community version 2022. That's fine, or Community version 2019. So Community version 2022 is the latest version of Visual Studio, and you might be having issue with it. Don't worry, it's fine, because when they do this version like that, we kind of do the alpha beta testing for them, meaning that every issue we find, they take it on board and they take all feedback and make correction in the latest update. So their latest updated version can still also throw error as well, which is fine. So if you decide to say that, I would just say maybe install both versions. The reason why I said you should install 2019 and 2022 is because it mirrors, the two versions is the same, it mirrors each other. So whatever you're doing on 2022, you will definitely see it when you launch 2019. But please do the same for two versions by selecting .NET Desktop Development, and also click on install, and also the step 2 of my setting up, we need to do the same for both so that it works. So this is it, you will see on the screen. And also, as the first timer, you will always be asked to sign into your Visual Studio, but you can say not now, maybe later. And if you decide to say no, I can sign in now, because you have a Microsoft account, which is very good. You have Azure DevOps, it's a Microsoft account. And if you also have another Microsoft account, it's also good as well. But I will say that you should use the one you have been using for the training. The Microsoft account you give to your Scrum Master, please try to use it to sign in to your Visual Studio. It doesn't mean that if you use another Microsoft account, it's an issue, but I would just say for the purpose of this training, just try to maintain the Microsoft account you started with. So you will see this when you click not now, maybe later, and this is where you now select what you're trying to do, because Visual Studio, you can use it for Visual Basic, C#, C++. The developer also uses it as well. You can also see the web development, which is the code only. Then, because you need to select which one you're using it for, so I will advise that you can see from the screenshot, you need to select the Visual C#. Then when you select the Visual C#, you click anywhere, it collapses. The next screen, you will see where to choose what you can see, because we also have different design of Visual Studio. You can see we have the dark mode, you have the blue, you have the light, and just select whichever one that goes with how you see things. For instance, I like to go with the dark because it's kind of clear and make things better for me as a QA and also developer as well. So, and also you can click Start Visual Studio button. So when you click on Start Visual Studio button, what you see on the screen is we are preparing for first use, because this is your first time of using Visual Studio. So you will see this on the screen. Then you will see this on the screen as well. So mind you, this is a screenshot for Visual Studio 2022. So if you have Visual Studio 2019 installed, you will see Visual Studio 2019. And if you have Visual Studio 2017 installed, which I will not advise anyone to do, you will see Visual Studio 2017. So what you will do as a first timer, don't click on anything, just click on continue without code. And you can see all screenshots is highlighting to what you need to do, which makes this slide very, very useful. So this is what you will see next. If you're using it, let's say, for example, you select dark. You click on the option of dark. This is what you will see, because it means that this is how the screen will look like, to say that this is your theme. Okay, you selected the dark theme. This is what you will see, and it's still the same. Just click on continue without code. So when you continue without code, you will see this displayed. So when you see this displayed on the screen, what you need to do is just to go at the top, which, okay. So this ends the first part of my setting up automation framework from scratch. So which I think, if you miss this video, try to rewatch it again and follow step by step. So the step 2 is this, which is integrate SpecFlow extension with Visual Studio. So now, to integrate SpecFlow, all instruction is in this slide, which makes the slide more detailed to always watch the video. So you can see, to do that, we have, for SpecFlow to properly work on Visual, you need to add SpecFlow as an extension. It is mandatory to do that. It is not an option, it is mandatory. So you only need to do this once you install Visual Studio. Whether you have Visual Studio over 5 years now, it's fine. Once you do it once, you're good to go. Until you uninstall your Visual Studio, then you need to repeat this step again. Let's say, for example, you need to uninstall your Visual Studio 2019, or you need to uninstall the 2022. You've done it successfully and you try to install it back again. Please go back to all the steps that I've mentioned. You need to start all over again, and you need to integrate your SpecFlow, which is you need extension of SpecFlow so that it works. And you can see we have on Visual Studio, you need to select extension as one of the menus, and you need to select manage extensions. So when you select that, you see this particular screen. For Visual Studio 2022, you might have additional things added, because the more they update Visual Studio 2022, the more things you see on the screen. But what you need to do is just to click on, because you have that, you will see on the screen, you have on the left, you have installed online Visual Studio Market, which is fine. And also on the right, what you need to do, just type spec flow. So when you type spec flow, it will come up in the middle, and click on the download button. And yep. So when you click on download button, it starts downloading for you. You will see this on the screen. And once the download is done, it's going to tell you to close your Visual Studio, meaning that the Visual Studio installer needs to complete the process of the installation, because which is very, very important. You always have all this package come together so that it works for you. If you miss this step, trust me, your Visual Studio is not going to work as expected. And you can see, you say after installation, you close Visual Studio and restart it again. You don't need to restart your device. You just need to restart, or you say you launch your Visual Studio again. So this is it. And you need to see this installer, VSIX installer. It is very, very necessary that you see it. If you did not see this, please, sometimes you might have too many things you open on your browser. Some of us, we open too many things on our browser. It's fine. It means that it might be at the back of all, let's say, all the tabs you've opened. So just minimize until you see this, because you need to see this. It means that installation is going well for you. So if you did not see this, it means that the step 2 is there is a problem. You need to go back to step 2, which is go to the menu for extension and do start again from the beginning. And yeah, so that you can see this, and you click. So once the installation is done, it means that yes, you are ready to use a Visual Studio now. You will see this on the screen, which says spec flow for Visual Studio 2022. So if you're installing 2019, you will see spec flow for Visual Studio 2019. So what you need to do is just to click on modify. And when you click on modify, you will see this on the screen saying that yes, it is installing some maybe dependency for you to use. And you will see this, and it says close. Once installation is done, then you're ready to use your Microsoft Visual Studio 2022, or ready to use Microsoft Visual Studio 2019. So when you open your Visual Studio again, which is you launch it or you restart your Visual Studio again, click continue without code again. And now, some of the issue you encounter, which I have already said, is been highlighted in this slide to say that if you did not close your Visual Studio and restart it, then integration will not work. It's true. If you did not see the dialog box, which I've mentioned, for the integration, minimize all windows. And if it is not there, do the step again, which I've said. And later, if you start having issue, and some of the issue people have later is if you found that there is no Selenium template, when you try to create a new project, then you haven't successfully integrated your spec flow with Visual Studio. And also another issue, if you could not see the spec flow when creating new feature file, then you haven't successfully integrated your spec flow with Visual Studio. It means that you need to repeat step 2 again, and that is our Telegram at the bottom. So this is it. You can just read about Visual, because you will have this welcome to SpecFlow and everything like that. You can read it on in your spare time. So now we will move to step 3, which is to create first test projects. When you join a team at work, if you're the first QA to join that particular team, they need automation. Maybe you're being employed as automation tester. You would be asked to create a framework for them. Or if they did not ask, because of your experience, you can always reach out to your team lead and say that I can do this. If you're a manual tester at work, you're already a manual tester, you can approach any of your admin or lead to say that you can set this up from scratch. So what you need to do, get them to give you access to install Visual Studio, because every work is different. In my own work, you don't just go to Google and install any application. You need to request for it in the portal, and once you have the Visual Studio, then you need to log in with your name and install everything that you needed in that portal. It's already there for you to just pick whichever one you want. So every company is different. Some company might say that you need to go online, try to install it, because that is the way they work. So it is the same thing we are all trying to do. So yeah, just take note. So to create first test projects, when you want to create a first test project, what you need to do, which I'm going to show you, you need to click on File, and you need to click on New, and you need to click on Projects. You will see this screen, meaning that you need to select which one you want to use, whether you want C# or you want. For us, I'll just say we are going to type in. You can type SpecFlow. When you type SpecFlow and you see this particular one, and you select C#, and for this, we want to select which type of test project we want to be working on. So we have different test projects. We have the NUnit, we have the SpecRun SpecFlow, we have the MS test, and we have different project boards. For this training, we might be using SpecFlow as well as NUnit. So you will have knowledge about the two. Then maybe if there is time, we can also look at MS test and the rest like that. And yeah. So you can see you've typed your SpecFlow. Because you've done step 2 properly, you will see this pop up on the screen, meaning that our project, for the sake of interview, is a SpecFlow with Selenium that you're trying to that you set up on your local device. So this is a project that you can do at any time. If you're at work, if you're a manual tester, you can reach out to your team lead and say, I can do this. If you're the only QA, you can also do this as well. It's only done once. So you will see this screen. The first part is saying the project name. For every project, you have a project name. So reach out to your team lead. If you are a manual tester, and say that, what is the name of your project? And let there be a guide to it. Don't just select any name, because you know that in an organization, we always have a project which we are always working on. So in my own project, I know the name of the project. Of course, that is the name we use in setting up the framework. So it will be good if you communicate and also get the name of the project. Or when you join the company, try to find out everything about the project, the name of the project, what the application does, and see which one is best and to start with when you join the company. So the first part is the project name. For our own training, we can select any project name. So I will say that for now, instead of having the group framework, I will say that individual, you need to have this done so that everybody know how it is done. If there is if we have more time, then we can now have a team project, meaning that we have Emerald projects and we also have Ruby projects framework, and we can also do the CI/CD as well. Like where we push our code, we can create a repository. But if there is time, we will do that. But for now, we will focus on this. So the location, you can always put it in your C drive. By default, Visual Studio will set a location for you by default. This is what you see on the screen. Please always try to click on the 3 dots. You can see the screenshot is saying browse, and go to your C drive, which I will show you, and create a new folder. Give it a name. Please do not add spaces to any name, and make it a camel case, meaning that the first letter of your word should start with a capital letter, And please do not put any space in the name because it is for automation and you don't want issues later. And you see, you also have solution name, which is the same as the project name. And what you need to do, you can just click on the checkbox, which is place solution and project in the same directory. And you click on create. So when you click on create, what you see on the screen is enter the name of the, okay, I've mentioned this, which is enter the name of the project, enter the location to store the project. And this is a sample of what you can do. Yeah, so this is a sample and we can just continue. So you can see in the screen, you can see the first part is the C drive, and there is a folder called Blue Sky. And in that folder, we have 20. That is just a screenshot of what you can do. But of course, when you want to do yours, you might just have C drive and just the name of the folder. But in this screenshot, what actually happened in this screenshot is that we have a C drive, we have a folder called Blue Sky Citadel. We also have automation framework called 2022, and we also have another folder called Blue Sky Citadel, which we want to put a new project on. Should in case you're looking at the location and you're trying to figure out why it is so long, don't worry. That is just the way the person, Mr. Deji, creating this also puts his location. So you can do your own different. And yeah. So we need to click on the create button. So the next thing we see on the screen is to create a new spec flow project. So for every project, we also have a version. Just like we have the version of the Visual Studio, we also have the version of our project as well. For the sake of interview, you need to know every version of project you're working on. So for the version of this one, you can select .NET 6.0, and we always have a test runner. So we have NUnit, we have the spec run spec flow, we also have the MS test, and we have to add the X unit. So we are going to be selecting NUnit. And with this, you will check the last checkbox, which is the add assertion library, if for our assertion, which will be discussed, and we click on create. So please remember this, we need to select .NET 6.0, and our test framework will be NUnit to start. And when you click on that, you see this particular screen. And what you have after you've clicked on start, this is what you have. By default, you have some folders created for you. You have the drivers, you have the features, you have the step definition, and also support. Sometimes you might not have the support as well, depending on how Visual Studio have upgraded their version. So if you create and you see more than this, don't worry, you're actually on the right track. So the dependency that is being shown in this screenshot are the when you created this Visual Studio, you know there are some dependency that will be by default be created for you. This is it. By default, you have the Flint assertion, you have the Microsoft.NET test SDK, you have the NUnit, which you have selected for our test framework. We also have the NUnit retest adapter by default. We also have the specflow.ne. So specflow.ne is a Nugget package as well, which we are going to install. But if you see it in this screenshot, don't worry, we will do the practical aspect as well. And what you need to do, you need to right click on the solution and click on the build solution. I will show you all these steps. So now you need your test explorer. So you go to test and you go click on test explorer, and you will see. So by default, you see a calculated feature created for you and calculator steps. I will show this for you when I do the practical parts. So now we have the Selenium SpecFlow folder structure created for us. So we move to the next one, which is to, you can see in the screenshot, we talk about the driver, and the driver this OD driver for different browsers that we are going to use. And we also have our features is one of the folder structure, which all the SpecFlow feature files are stored there. You will be storing all your feature files in your features folder structure. We also have a folder structure called step definition. In the step definition, you will the steps definition for each test is stored here. We have the support folder. The support folder all the common help classes and methods that are required, which I believe if there is time, we will touch on all this folder. But the main one we are going to touch more is the features, the step definition, page objects, and hooks. But I'll just continue. We also have the page object, which is each page we have a page update. There will be a common page object here too, which is right. We also have the folder structure called test data. We have the test input for all your input data. And we also have the test output, screenshots, and the store your screenshot for both failure and pass. Because you're using NUnit, yeah, you might need to do this in your folder. But if you select a project, if you're using the Spectrum SpecFlow as your test runner, by default, it is going to generate all the screenshots for you because it will generate your report for you. That's why Spectrum is kind of different to NUnit. It will generate all reports for you. You don't need to do anything about that. So you also have your hooks. Hooks maybe is not created for you. You might need to create that folder for yourself, but this will be done. Like I said, I will show you how it's done. So in your hooks, you only have your before and after scenario. Some company you can split your hooks into different classes. You can have your before scenario in a class. You can have your after scenario in another class. You can have like up to 4 or 5 classes under hooks. But for our training, we are going to have just one, which I will show you. So we will have our before and after scenario inside one class. And this is it. To create a folder, this is the screenshot to take to create a folder. You need to click on the create the folder. You need to right click on the project, which is the project name that you've given. You don't need to right click on the solution. You need to right click on the project I'm going to show you, and you select add, you select new folder. So you can see, and I can give it a name, and in the screenshots, I'm putting page objects, and which is fine, and click out, and that folder is named. And that is one of the folder structure for interview sake. If you have interview tomorrow, please mention that. And you also have utility folder as well. Utility folder, all the common help classes and methods that are required, which is the weight. You might need a weight. You can put your weight class there. You might put so many things there. If you're uploading a file, you can decide to have a class called file uploads, which you need to put all necessary methods in that class so that you can always call it in your page object and also use it in your step definition if you need it. If you want to upload a particular file, depending on the test you're testing and depending on what application you're trying to test, we tell you what and what is required in your utility folder. So we will move to the next one, which is to create feature file. And yeah, so the purpose of me sharing all of this is because when we start the practical, I might not be able to open this slide for you. So it will be good if I do a rundown of this slide. Then we have the recording saved. Then when we start the practical, it kind of, we can now have a proper workshop for the practical part. So if you select the SpecFlow plus runner activation, this happen if you did not select NUnit. So in my screenshot, I will go back to the screenshot so that I let you know where that is applicable here. So if in the test framework, you decide to go with SpecFlow, Spectrum, or whether it's Spectrum, SpecFlow, you need to activate your spec flow. Also, if you also have spec flow here, you need to select spec flow. You need to activate your spec flow. So let's say, for example, you did not select spec flow, you just look for any unit. Hold on, you just select any unit from here, and which is C#. You might not need to activate, but depending on the application, depending on the upgraded version of Visual Studio or spec flow, maybe you still need to activate. But when you know that you have selected spec flow, all activation needs to be done for spec flow. So I'll go back to this slide. Okay. So spec flow plus runner activation, you need to open the output panel, which I'm going to show you. And when you open the output panel, you will see that you need to select the test, and in the view to show you the output from the drop down, you can see from the screenshot, which we are going to do together. You should see the test output of the spec flow plus runner, including the link. It is an hyperlink. So what you need to do, some people can click on this link and redirect to the page. If you cannot click on the link from here, I would advise that you copy the link, open your browser, any of your browser, whether it's Google Chrome or Microsoft Edge or any browser you're using. As long as you paste the link, you just need to activate your spec flow. And you will see this link only if you pick, okay, good. And you can see there is an additional note here to say that you will only see this link if you pick spec flow plus runner as your preferred test runner, which I've explained earlier. So during your project, if you select this particular test runner, this is when you activate your spec flow. So you need to copy the activation link and from the test output and open it in your browser, which I've said, and you can see the screenshot. And then you need to sign into Microsoft. You need to put your email and you need to put your password. Then you're good to go. And you see the screen, welcome to SpecFlow plus Runner. And you can switch back to Visual Studio and re-execute the test. Right click on the test and run it. The test has been executed. Now see the duration in milliseconds. You will see all the duration, but the test does not do much yet because all the tests you will have we have to skip because you don't have the step definition and you don't have the page objects. But of course, you should see this screen saying that you are doing well in the process of creating your project. So you will see this calculator dot feature. When you have already put your project name, you've put your project in a location, you've selected a test framework and the version of your project, and you click on create. The screen that you see next to see some folders created for you, by default, you will see this calculator.feature under your folder for features. If you did not see it, it might be that maybe there is an updated version now that we don't see it, but trust me, you will definitely see it to say that yes. And you will see that spec flow icon green showing to say that yes, you actually have spec flow in the project. And this is it. You can see we have from to, and you can see which is troubleshoot step, resolve spec flow icon on feature file. You can see from before what we have before, and when we've activated our spec flow, what we actually have. And you need to close your Visual Studio and open Visual Studio again. And you can delete your calculator.feature, or you can use it as a guide to create a feature file, which I'm going to explain to everyone. And yeah, SpecFlow plus Runner is activated. So now another step is to add our another packages. This is very, very important, so that you have everything that works for your Visual Studio for you. If you miss this step, nothing is going to work for you. Your test is not going to bind. A lot of things will not work for you. So you need to add nugget packages. And there are different type of nugget packages depending on the test framework that you choose. If you choose N units, you need a nugget package for N unit. If you choose SpecFlow plus SpecRun, you need nugget package for those test framework, which I'm going to show you. And yeah, so the next one is the required nugget package is good. That is why it's good that I'm using this slide, because it is well detailed and it shows you what and what you need, regardless of which test framework you're using. And you can see if you decide to go with SpecFlow, SpecRun, you need 3 nugget package, which is selenium.webdriver, selenium.support, selenium.webdriver, Chrome driver. The last part is the Chrome driver, WebDriver, Chrome driver has to do with our Google Chrome. They are different. If you decide that you run your test on Google, you need the number 3. If you're not using Google Chrome to run your test, in some company they use Microsoft Edge. You might need the Edge driver. If you're using Firefox, you might need the Gecko, which I'm going to show everyone. But for Blue Sky Citadel training, we are going to be using selenium.webdriver, Chrome driver, if you decide to go with SpecFlow. And also, if you decide that you want to use NUnit for your text framework, these are all the nugget package for NUnit. We have the NUnit. You need to install it. You need to install nunit.console, and also you need to install nunit.runner. You need to install nunit unit 3 test adapter, and also very, very important, you need to install specflow.nunit. So I'll say that not the one on the right that says not required unless you need to run your code in IE, which I've discussed, which is the Internet Explorer or Firefox. So if you decide that I'm not using Google Chrome, I'm not using the Chrome driver, I'm going to use Firefox, then please install selenium.firefox.webdriver so that anytime you click on run, it opens your Firefox browser and start running your test for you. And also, if you decide that you don't want to use that, depending on your company and what they have set for you to use to run your test. And like in my own company, they decided that they want to go all Microsoft. What did I mean by that? Because of the security Microsoft is doing at the moment, my company tried to kind of like it. So it might be that maybe there is a package they get from Microsoft, and Microsoft in terms of security is, I would say, that is the best. Sometimes they might try to do too much, but I would still say that it is the best. And for my company, they kind of maintain it. So what they did of recent is to stop all testers using Google Chrome. So they put a message and said we need to stop using Google. Because they are not technical, we need to prove that we are technical. We need Google Chrome and we need the Chrome driver to support our testing, because the reason is because it's kind of much more faster. And we have a campaign, or the test lead, we campaign about it and say, hold on, we might not use it for our manual testing, but we need this for our automation. And what the business did was that to say that, okay, everyone should put their device name because it's from the company, and they register everyone and say that, yes, you are the only one that will be using Chrome to run your automation. Please do not use it for manual testing, because we don't have that package anymore. We are now using all Microsoft package, which is Microsoft Edge. So you can see the reason why I'm saying that some of us, when you join a company, you might be that you need to use Edge to run your test. And the example my work, which says we need to use Edge, but I'm not using it in my team because I still stand on it to say that no, we don't want Microsoft Edge. The reason is because it's kind of too slow, and the way that the application we run at my work, Edge is not suitable, Google is suitable. So it still stand and we still use Google. So depending on which one you want to use, you might need to select, install the Nugget package, and that is the explanation for that.
I think your voice is low. Your voice is gone.
Okay, can you hear me now? Oh, sorry, someone was calling me. Oh, I'm sorry.
It's better.
So, okay, hold on. Let me see if I can put it in flight mode.
We can't hear you again, just in case you're speaking.
Sorry, because I put it in flight mode, it kind of turn off everything. So I'll just put it in silent. Sorry about that. So what we see is to select the project, and you can see you need to check that project is very, very important to say that that is the project you want that Nugget package to be on. And you click on install, you can see from the screenshot, and the installation starts. And you click OK, because you always see a pop-up until you check that box, do not show this again. But I will say that please don't check the box, do not show this again, because it's kind of a guide to what you're doing, if you need to install it or not. So if I say anything like that, I've never checked it, because I don't want to install what I don't need. I just want to see this pop up on the screen to say, did I actually need it? Then I can say, okay, or I click cancel. And you will see, you need to accept their terms. I will say, I will not call it terms and conditions. For every installation you do, you need to agree with the license. Sorry, let me go back. You need to agree with the license. And some of us like to read some information. You can read about it, but trust me, you still need to accept it to use it. Whether you accept it, then you can use it. If you decline, then you might not be able to use that Nugget package. And you can see if you had the selenium.support, which is one of the Nugget package, this is the process as well. And just click on install and click OK. And yeah, so the number 3 of our Nugget package, if you're using Spectrum SpecFlow, is the selenium.webdriver Chrome driver. So before you install this, try to check your Chrome, which I'm going to show you. Check what version of Google Chrome you have. You can see if you go to your settings, your about Chrome, it will tell you what version. This version needs to match with your Nugget package for that, because if it's not matching, you might not be able to run your tests. Yeah, so you need to have the selenium.webdriver Chrome driver. Select which version of Google Chrome you have. Our device is different from each other. Some of us have a standard laptop, which is everything is there. You get the updated version frequently. Some of us still have like I'll say an average laptop. Why I say an average? Because it might be that the installation to Google Chrome takes a while before you get your updated Chrome. Don't worry. If everyone is having, like, the current version is 113 and the pre-release is 114. The pre-release have not been released yet, but the current one is 113. So let's say, for example, the 111 is the one that was there before. So if you're still having 111, please, you need to install the version 111 dot the rest of the numbers, and just pick the latest one that has the 111 and install it, because it needs to match your Chrome version, and you need to be current about this version as well. That is why I'm able to say all this version.
Sorry, Bimbo.
Yeah.
Sorry, Bimbo. Yeah. What about the some of us that are using Edge, Microsoft Edge? Does it affect us?
Okay. No, it does. This only applies to if you're using Chrome. So I will not say it affects you. You need to look at your Microsoft Edge version as well. It must match. So if you're using Edge to run your test, then you need to install the Selenium dot WebDriver dot Edge, whatever name is called, but you need that particular driver. And the version you install must match your Microsoft Edge browser version. So if you're using Google, which we are going to use for our training, it must match our browser version. Our Selenium version for Chrome must match the browser version. Okay. So proceed, click OK, and you see. So it means that we are done with the Nugget package. And the next step is to create our hooks. And hooks is SpecFlow hooks allow your code to be better managed for the sake of interview. If you're being asked why you do this, it helps us to reduce the code redundancy. And the block of code to run before or after step, scenario, or feature. And we also have the hooks. We have event binding, because when you're doing this, which I'm going to show you, you need to select specflow.event.hooks binding. So yeah, that is the template you will be using. So you can use this to perform additional automation logic on specific events, such as before executing a scenario. Visual Studio 2022 have a way of starting your automation for the before scenario. It might say that you need one, or depending on how your before will look. 2019 is kind of different. So they all have their own flavor of the before and after scenario for hooks. So all of this will be until we experience one or two issues that you're having, we'll be able to answer that. But when I show you the practical, you're going to see. So we have the hooks are global, but can be restricted to run only for features or scenario with a particular tag. That is why when you're using SpecFlow, when you install SpecFlow, you need it for your feature file. Because in your feature file, when you create a particular tag, you can specifically say, I'm going to run this tag. These tests that have been tagged for this particular tag is what I needed to run. So, which I will show you. There is a particular name you search for, which is the trait. So the trait is just to filter what you want to run in your test explorer, which I will show you. So you look for that tag name. If you have target at SpecFlow, let's say, for example, you target at, so just select at SpecFlow. Every test that I have at SpecFlow, we show you in the drop down, and you can run everything at once. So you also have, you can use them anywhere in your project or step definition layer, because you need your hooks in your page objects. And you also need it sometimes, depending on how you write your method. Some of us like to declare our driver in our page object. Some of us like to extend our base test. Depending on whatever I show you, you can decide on which one you want to use. But everybody is actually doing the same thing. If you start work now and your page object is looking different, trust me, we are actually doing the same thing. It's just the way the method is written is different. And also the highlighted one is saying advisable to have a dedicated class for hooks. It is advisable. Please do have a dedicated class for it. Some of the YouTube video that you will watch, they don't have a dedicated class for hooks. You will see that when you go on YouTube, you decided to try to do a self-learning, you will see that in one particular task, class, they can put their hooks there, they can put everything there, put their driver, go to Chrome, even in that class, they put on the test to run and they click on it and it works. But for training, please have a dedicated one. And at work, you might have a dedicated one. But if you did not have any dedicated one, we are actually doing the same thing. So you have the crate hooks. This is the spec flow comes with some predefined hooks. If you select the right template, you get this. And you have the available hooks and they are running order. We have the before test run, we have the before feature, we have the before scenario, we have the before scenario block. As you have that, we also have before step, after scenario block, after scenario, after feature, after test. All of this is important, but you must have a reason for using it. So in my own work, we used a before test run. We have the before feature, before scenario, but before scenario block is not, I don't have it. There might be a reason why you're doing all of that, because if you join a company and you see their framework, the way they do their hooks might be different. So there might be a reason. Please do ask questions if you decide to join a company and they already have existing framework. Tell someone to walk you through their framework, and please always study it as well. But everything we are going to learn here is similar to what you'll be doing when you get a role. So you can see you have the before test run, the before feature, and so on like that. And this is it. Before test run, you can see that we have the discretion to run before or after the entire test run, because we have the before test run and the after test run. So the discretion for both is to run before the entire test run and run after the entire test run. And we also have the before feature, after feature, run before or after executing each feature, and so on like that. And we also have the before step and after step as well. And you can see, to create a hook, you by default, if you select the right template, you get some thing in your class. So you will have this particular before and after scenario, but the driver that is highlighted, you need to type it there, because it won't come with driver equals to new Chrome driver. You need to put that in your before scenario, meaning that go to Google Chrome and open the URL for me and launch the URL for me. That is exactly what he's doing there. So the driver that you've installed for your Nugget package is actually in line with your browser. So he opens your browser for you, which of course we must have a test to say that go to this URL, which I will go show everyone. And the after scenario is where we quit or close our browser. Some of us, when we run our test, you just see the Chrome display in our taskbar. But when we have the particular method to close it, some of us, it queues for us, which means that it closed the browser. Some of us, it just closed the browser without, and it was, trust me, Chrome always run in the background. And what you need to do, you just need to open your task manager and end the task, or you have this particular method way which you open your command line, put that description, which if there's time I can show you. And when you press enter, it kills all the Chrome running in the background. Or you can go to your Google Chrome setting and turn off Chrome running in the background. It might still come up on your screen that you have Chrome running in the background, but that is the browser setting of turning off the Chrome running in the background. Let's say, for example, you're trying to download and you're not running your test, but you're downloading, you're doing so many things on your browser, and there's a particular one that is still running in the background. So, but because you turn off that setting, of course, it's not going to run in the background once you close or restart your device. So this is it. You right click. This is the step to create hook, which I will show to everyone. And you just need to right click on the hook folder, click add and select new item. And like I said, you will see that I mentioned spec flow hooks, open and close brackets, event bindings. You need to select this. Is very, very important, because we need binding. For all our hooks, we need the hooks binding, which is our feature file that we are creating. When we have a step generated for it needs to bind. So meaning that you will see the different color that I have when you have your test and you generate your step definition for it. And when you click on save, depending on the version of spec flow you have. Some of us, we need to build our test to see it bind. Some of us, we just need to click on the save and it does bind. 2019, when you click on save, it binds for you. 2022, you might need to click on the build and build your test for it to bind, depending on what spec flow is trying to do for you on the screen. But you need to select spec flow hooks binding. And this is it. This is what you see on the screen. You can see you have your name, which is the Blue Sky Citadel .hooks, and you have this particular URL, which is very, very good. Some of us, we like to read, copy it, go to it, read all about hooks. It's fine. Some of us, we can save it somewhere, but please delete it. It's not good to have it in your test framework, because you don't need it. And yeah, but if you decide to still leave it in your personal learning, it's fine. It's fine. Keep it. But at work, you might, all of this might be deleted, but there are some particular one at work that you might need to leave, because the reason why you might need to comment out this particular information is for the tester joining your team or your test lead reviewing your code to see the reason why you use that particular method. Because at work, if you're using a particular method, you need to explain to other testers what they can do with that method. If it's useful for them, please put a comment. We will all talk about this. I'm just trying to summarize. Put a comment on the top of your method. Tell other testers, okay, you can also use this. Yeah, you can, especially most of the time when you do it is if you have a case, and I will not go too far. I'm just trying to summarize. If you have a case, which we will still talk about, you can put a comment for the purpose of the other keywords in this meeting. You can put a commented sentence there to say, text there to say that, yes, please add your own step to this. And if you need it, if it's required, please add yours. Because when you put that information there, it makes your framework to be neater. Instead of everyone creating different case, we can always put every case together or method together. That is the purpose of that comment in line 12, to say that please read about this information and it's being commented out, which is the double slash. And in our before scenario, we need our driver, which we are going to put our Chrome. And of course, we will have a using from line 1 to 5. We have tech-talk.spec flow. It is important you have tech-talk.spec flow. If you don't have it, something is wrong, because you're actually using spec flow. You should see that particular using. Every other one, if it's grayed out, that means it's not used. The link is used for a particular reason. I will not go too detail. The system.text is for a particular reason. I will not say that now. The system.collection.generic is for a particular reason. There must be a method you are trying to create to bring up that using, but because of the template, I liked it for you. So when you now have your driver, you are going to click, you will see a particular IntelliSense, which I will show you. From that IntelliSense, you can click on the using and it will be at the top, which we are going to see. And you can see on the right, under our hook, we have web hooks. So if you have hooks in your folder, please don't call your class hooks again. Try to differentiate it. And yeah, so the one we are going to be using, we will call it base test. And this is it. We have the code snippet on the left to your web hooks. So this is the code snippet, and trust me, this code snippet is very, very good. If you know how to write it down, please write it down, because when I was learning this, I have a notebook. I write it down word to word from using open.keys. The reason why I write it down somewhere is that I always go back to my notes and see what I've done wrong. So instead of me coming to training section and start asking questions, I already open my book and I see, what have I done? Have I made a curly braces? Because all this you might think is open and close bracket. No, it's called curly braces. If you miss it, it might throw an error for you. But because I already have a way that I've designed it in my notebook. If it's missing in my test when I was learning automation, I open my book and I see that, oh, it's like this one is missing. Maybe it's this that is causing. And when I put it back, it fixed the issue for me because I always write it word for word. I will not advise you to do the same, but that is just the way I learn, and still till now I still do the same. So when I write things word for word, when I make mistake, I go back to my notebook and see which one is missing. And you can see at the bottom, you need the 3 closing braces. One of the braces, if it's missing in your hook, you will have error. So because I already have it in my notebook, I already look at it and say, okay, I think this is the one that is missing. I just had it and it fixed the error for me. And yeah, so some of us, we are like that. We kind of solve issue ourselves. Some of us will wait for training to bring our issue. So don't worry, we are here to fix everything for you. We also have mentors that will fix issue for you in the team. So this is it. This is our webhook. This is how it looks like after we've put our driver equals to new Chrome driver, have domain, we have the current domain, and we have our base directory. There are different ways to write the before scenario, which I'm going to show you. And also we have our after scenario as well. So you save all file. Please, when you're working, please always click on the save. And at the top, you will see where we have our webhooks.cs at the top. Under the Git and view, you will see that we have a folder there. And beside the folder to our right, we have the saved all. So we also have save. We have save. We also have save all. So anyone you click on is fine. So the reason why you need to do that, let's say we are some of us are in Nigeria and we are working on this framework. We've put so much effort, but we forget to save. And maybe our laptop is also not okay. By the time you remove your battery from your laptop, everything just went blank. Meaning that you have this particular device that when you put the battery back, you might need to restart from the beginning. So what happened is that you have lost all work because it won't come back on the screen because you did not save. So for example, if you have saved it, whatever happened at that moment, because we have so many technical reasons why our device go off, it will always come back. Once you launch your Visual Studio, it will come back. And some of us have this device that whether we save or not, automatically it comes back to say you forget to save this, depending on your device, but it is advisable to click on the save. So save all file. So create first feature file. So I'm going to pause here and I will stop the recording. Then one of us will share screen. The way that we have been doing it, which my boss, I always call him my boss because I learned from him, is that someone can share screen. Then from there, we can do the practical so that I don't start doing the practical, or after the practical, I still have to come back and do it again. So I will stop the recording now. Anyone that wants to volunteer, let's start installing our Visual Studio so that everyone is on the same page. The tutor is not ahead of the class. Everyone is on the same page. So when we install, so all of us that are not sharing screen, please follow whoever is going to start the installation process. Also do the same, please. Write your question in the chat or unmute and please ask question. Please, I always like people ask question. I don't know why I keep saying it, because at work, I talk a lot, trust me. And because I talk a lot, they kind of know that, yes, she's in the meeting. They know me that, yes, she is here. And in Blue Sky as well, they also know me to talk a lot, which my boss can confirm. So I always like to ask questions. Please ask questions. If you don't work in silo, meaning that don't get intimidated by someone that is ahead of you. That is why I want us to be on the same page. Don't worry about the time. We will finish when he says so, but we will continue again. I can speak to him and say, let us continue the session again. And trust me, he always supports learning, and which is very good. And we can continue from where we stop again and make sure that everybody is on the same page. So any questions so far before we create our first scenario? Because I don't want to say too much because of the recording. Some of us get too tired watching long 2 hours video. So, but when it comes to the practical aspect, I'm sure, even though it's 5 hours, some of us have that time, because that time you can say, okay, what did they do here? Let me do it. What did they do here? Let me do it. Or what did she say here? Let me do it. What did she do here? Let me do it. Did you get it? So I'll stop the recording so that we can have this recording saved. So let me see.
So Bimbo, sorry, because as I'm seeing all these packages, it's going to be heavy. What memory um, space do you think is
You
going
need
to take?
8
Because
gig.
considering we have different
You need
system
8.
here,
You need 8
like how
gig.
many gigs?
8.
8 gigs. All of these things is only 8 gigs.
No, I will not say because I'm not into the aspect of telling people what they need on their laptop. But get a laptop that can do installation. Trust me, it's not going to take a lot of space, because on my own device, I know that I kind of have 8 gig. I know some of us, we know in and out of our computer. You can even correct me. But of course, because I know automation does not mean that I know my laptop. You can see the difference. But I know that this laptop I'm using right now, you have a lot of space for me to install. Whether I want to install Visual Studio or I want to do the Java part, I can install. And because I also work as a developer as well, I do lots of installation. I make sure that I have space. And yeah, so get a device that have enough space. And maybe it's the RAM. I don't know. Some of us might know better than me. Maybe it's 8 RAM
I
or
think
something like that.
the RAM should be minimum of eight
Exactly. That's the one I'm
for
talking
you
about. Yes.
That
to be
one,
much
that
more
one
effective.
is ROM, not RAM.
ROM. Thank you.
So
You see, that's why we are learning together. So you need that. And don't get intimidated with all my screenshots. You might not even, by the time you install the 2 Visual Studio or just one, you might still have enough space on your laptop. So don't worry. And yeah, so that is it. So I'm going to stop the recording, and please, who want to volunteer, and the person is going to share screen and we will do the installation ourselves. So that is how I've learned, and that is how I would also like to teach people as well. Did we get it now? So who want to volunteer? I will stop the recording now so we can start a new recording. Or if you have any question, please do ask me. See, I'll stop the recording.
I'm using Edge. Maybe I can share my screen so that.
Okay, let me stop the recording. I've stopped sharing. Okay,